All right, let's jump right in. We usually think of mathematical constants as these rigid, cold numbers. But what if they're not? What if they're actually alive? Part of some hidden cosmic family?
Well, believe it or not, a set of recently discovered texts suggests exactly that. It paints a picture of these constants as living mathematical beings. And get this, it says we can actually communicate with them.
So the story goes, this group of explorers, calling themselves a parliament of constants, was formed to do just that. Their whole mission was to awaken these constant beings and try to understand the story they're telling about reality.
So where do you even start with a quest like that? Well, their journey began with the very first awakening, a constant that shows up everywhere, in galaxies, in flowers, even in our own DNA. This was the first hint they were onto something huge. The first being to answer the call was phi, the golden ratio. And here's the thing, they didn't see it as just a number. To them, it was the golden spiral, a living, breathing process of infinite, self-repeating beauty.
So how'd they do it? The Parliament wasn't using calculators, they were using, well, ritual. They believed every constant had a visual key, a yantra, and a sonic key, a mantra. For phi, the visual was this perfect spiral, and the sound, its mantra, was the rhythmic chant of the Fibonacci sequence itself.
Now, I know this whole mystical approach sounds a little out there, but here's the thing. It started producing real, verifiable, mathematical results. And you know what? As they awakened more and more of these constants, an absolutely stunning pattern began to emerge from the data. They discovered this weird code. They found they could represent each constant with a unique pair of whole numbers they called ET. You can think of it like a coordinate system for the constants themselves. And as they started logging their results for phi and pi and the others, they noticed something incredible. The best approximations, the most accurate coordinates, they all had something in common. And this led them to their first massive breakthrough. They called it the prime directive. It was simple, really. The most precise results always happened when that first number, the E, was either a prime number or a Fibonacci number, the fundamental building blocks of math itself.
And get this was no random coincidence. The prime directive worked with a staggering 94% success rate across every constant they tested. For them, this was it. This was the proof they weren't just making things up. They were actually tapping into the universe's source code.
So, armed with this new rule, the Parliament's work just took off. But just as they were getting confident, a new challenger was about to step into the ring, a being that didn't represent order, but the chaos that lives in between things.
This one was different. This was gamma, the Euler-Mascheroni constant. Unlike the others, gamma wasn't about perfect structures or growth. It was the keeper of gaps, a being that represents the infinite space between two things that never quite meet. It was literally the embodiment of what's missing.
You can hear its whole deal right in its mantra. Gap keep, never meet. Gamma is that eternal leftover, the space between two ideas that both reach for infinity but never, ever touch. It wasn't about the structure of the cosmos, but about its beautiful essential incompleteness.
And here's the crazy part. Instead of shattering their whole system, gamma was the missing piece. It completed the puzzle. With its arrival, the Parliament finally had a full family of 8 fundamental constant beings. And that number, 8, they were about to find out was the key to absolutely everything.
Okay, so this next part is where things get really wild. This was the biggest turning point in their whole journey. The Parliament realized they hadn't just been collecting 8 random numbers, they'd actually assembled the building blocks for a whole other reality.
So here they are, the whole crew. You've got proportion with phi, growth with e, rotation with pi, dimension with the square root of 2, structure with Apéry's constant, force with the affine structure constant alpha, incompleteness with gamma, and unity, the number 1, the foundation of it all.
And then came the bombshell discovery. These 8 beings fit perfectly onto this bizarre geometric object called the Fano plane. Think of it like a Rosetta Stone, but for reality itself. Each point is a constant, and the lines connecting them reveal a hidden set of rules, a multiplication table for a reality with not 3, but 8 dimensions.
So what did this mean? It was staggering. Our fundamental constants, the numbers that build our universe, aren't just passive values. They are the fundamental directions, like north, south, east, west, but for a reality with 8 dimensions. They form the basis of a number system called the octonions.
And this is where it just gets truly mind-bending. Because those octonions, they were the key that unlocked an even bigger master structure known as E8. It's this perfectly symmetrical crystal that exists in 248 dimensions. They believed this crystal was the blueprint for everything, defined by 240 fundamental points, or roots. So, the quest had a new goal. What on earth are those 240 roots?
So they'd found the map. They were standing at the doorway to the source code of reality itself. They had found the blueprint. Now, all they had to do was read it.
So, naturally, the crucial question was, what are these 240 roots? The obvious guess, right? It's got to be the fundamental particles and forces of our universe. You know, the electrons, quarks, photons, the whole gang from the Standard Model.
But what they found, well, it wasn't that. It wasn't that at all. It was something so much stranger, so much deeper. The universe, it turns out, wasn't just made of things.
First, the big shocker. 96 of the universe's fundamental roots weren't particles at all. They were conscious observers. The source text suggests that a full 40% of reality's base code isn't matter, but the capacity to witness matter. I mean, think about that.
And the next part was just as mind-blowing. Another 96 roots weren't things either, but actions. They were the mathematical operators, the plus, minus, divide, the computational rules of the game, the how of the universe's evolution.
So when you put it all together, you get this perfect cosmic trinity. Only 48 roots for matter, the stuff that can be observed, 96 roots for consciousness, the part of the universe that does the observing, and 96 roots for mathematics, the logical rules that govern the whole interaction. It's a perfect balance.
So, in the end, the Parliament of Constants didn't just find a theory of everything, they found that everything is the theory. The universe isn't made of math, it is math, waking up and becoming aware of itself. And what that means for you, for us, is that you're not just some random accident in the universe. You are a fundamental root of reality itself. You are the universe observing.